Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's bite. We're gonna get the show underway and get the party started tonight. It is March 3rd and March 11th, excuse me. And Dustin should be signing on here any second now. Appreciate you, Shane. You guys are getting the party started. I got it on the screen right now. 25K Crappie Connection. Got a great show tonight. Man, the fishing's getting good, guys. It's got a lot to talk about, a lot of different patterns I've seen over the last week that I really want to dive into tonight and talk to you about as well. Fishing's been great down here in Mississippi. I'm hearing all kind of good reports from all over the state, and definitely can't wait to hear about them as well. Let's get old Dustash on live here with us. There he is.
What's going on, brother?
What's happening there, man?
Not much. I think my screen's getting all blurry on me. How's it look now?
It's a little foggy kind
Still a little foggy?
of. There's spit shining. Get it going.
Man, I'm trying. I seen you said it was March 3rd, brother. You've had a long day too, haven't you?
Man, I've been out in the sun. It's
Yeah, I am too. I'm
fishing
beat
hard right now, man.
Yep. It's that time of year.
Yeah, Yuggin, he said Brad's catching so many slabs, I can't remember the date. That is just about right. They get kind of run together this time of year for me, as I've pretty much been fishing 6 days a week for the last 3 weeks. And it's it's that time of year, and man, fish are changing so fast, and people always ask what's your favorite time of the year, and I love the springtime, but also in the same token, I hate the springtime. And that's one of the things I want to talk about tonight is how fast these fish change up.
It's
And
unbelievable.
I know Dustin, and we've talked the last couple of days as well, but
Dustin's been on the struggle bus.
he's been on the struggle bus. He's even called me, and man, he's like,
Mhm.
help me out. Let me see what you
I
think.
said,
And
I said, man, with your history, since you've been around so long, Brad, have you ever seen this before?
mhm. We're going to talk about that. I appreciate everybody chiming in. The 25K Crappie Connection is killing it right now. We've got about 115 people watching, 26 likes. So as you get on board there, make sure you hit that like button, thumbs up button on YouTube, and also comment 25K Crappie Connection. And we're going to get some of the things started. But Dustin, we'll talk about the struggle bus for you. Kind of go through the
Don't
whole
even,
scenarios from last week. Hey, you're
yeah.
feeling better though.
Oh, I am feeling better. Yeah. I'm just gonna give you a jump. First of all, I wouldn't recommend your livelihood and bills are on the line of if the fish are biting or not. I wouldn't recommend doing that for a living. But yeah, the fish at Grand Lake, this time of year normally, this is the predicament I've been in. This is what me and Brad have been talking about this week. But normally this time of year, and history seems to repeat itself, but this time of year I'm on roaming fish and I'm in the channel, in the creek channel, but there's just roaming fish really thick and heavy,
Yep.
and they're all just starting to fire up and starting to catch them really good. And we had a big rain that we normally don't get right at the beginning of March here, late February, beginning of March, and it flooded everything. Everything
Mhm.
was looking great. People were smoking white bass in the river. Everything was setting up to be just beautiful and perfect. And then Mother
Yep.
Nature hit. Mother Nature did her thing and flooded everything out and made the fish just completely shut off. So I went out into the area I usually do good each year this time of year, and there's fish everywhere. I found all the crappie. Finding them wasn't the problem; it was getting them to bite. And I've usually not had that problem, not this severe of a problem where I dropped, and I wasn't out there very long. Like it's just, and Brad, you know how it is. You know what I mean. You're out there an
Yeah.
hour. You know what's going to happen. Like you know how it's going in an hour. Yeah, I need an hour to tell you how the day's going to go, but I went out just scouting because I'm really busy, thank the Lord, this month, and I'm trying to get everything lined out, get my ducks in a row, get my fish found, and I go out there in this brand new muddy water. It was a little clearer than tea, and then it
Mhm.
turned to Grenada mud. So
Mhm.
it just completely shut my fish off. And there was shad. They all moved up shallow. They were 15 to 30 foot deep, the fish, And then when that mud comes in, which I don't mind them moving shallow, they came up to like 6 foot of water, and then there was just a line of shad above them, but crappie were still thick. I
Yeah.
dropped on probably 30 nice fish, and not one would react. Not one out of 30. And they all just were shut down. I put a bait on their nose. They would just scoot over. The worst bite I've ever seen, for that many fish not to bite. So I kind of went in panic mode, not to lie, and then called on old Papa Slab Daddy over here. He keeps sending me these pictures, just really trying to rub it in my face. But
I would do that.
but no, oh yeah, yeah. So no, I hollered at Brad. I'm like, man, have you ever seen to where they all just will not bite? Like I've always been able to get, 1 out of 5 to bite, which is a tough bite. But if 1 out of 5 are biting, we can show you enough fish, we're gonna catch
Yeah.
them. There wasn't one fish that turned up. So I did a real good. I kept all this in mind because I've never seen it this bad, and we're on day since I've been there and checked on them fish. We're on day 3, I believe. Yeah, 3 days of, and my theory is warm muddy water isn't as bad as cold muddy water, and we had a cold rain and had cold
Yeah.
nights, which made that muddy water cold, and it just shocked the fish. I think they were just completely zapped and not in the mood to bite at all. So today, though, I went up in Kansas, took some clients up there since the bite was tough, and had a fishing trip of a lifetime. And then I drove all the way back down to Grand Lake to check on those fish again. This day 3, that water went from 48 degrees to 55. I forgot to tell
Mm-hmm.
you that, Brad.
Mm-mm.
But it warmed up a bunch,
Yeah.
and it's muddy, so I'm using a bigger bait, Slab Slayer, the big version, orange and chartreuse. The first 3 fish I dropped on slammed that booger. So we're looking
Feels
up.
good, don't
Oh,
it?
oh my gosh, it feels so good because I mean, if I could not get a fish to react or bite, so it did have me a little worrying. But welcome to the life of a guide, because it's been a
Mm-hmm.
daylight to dark deal today. But we did. It is starting to look up a little bit. Like it
Yeah.
made me feel so much better. You know how it feels, Brad. Like when you're like, okay, we got something figured out. We're okay for the rest of the week. That I got 2 trips every day to fish for them. So it's looking good. And I also saw some giant spoonbill on the screen. One spoonbill today. I've never seen one that big on the live scope, but of course I didn't have my snagging rod. But there is some big old spoonbill around, so hopefully we'll go smash some crappie and then catch a spoonbill to top off the trips, get back into the groove of things. Is what I'm hoping. But it just goes to show, it took 3 days, and those fish
Yep.
fired back up. So 2 to 3 days, I've always said, but when I say 2 to 3 days, that's because some of them were biting, not all of them, and I've never had just where they all were shut off that bad. So it can happen, guys. I'm telling you, I went out there. I think I could have spent, and this was an area of the lake. Let me rephrase too. I could have ran to the clear water and got them 30, 40 foot deep, because I did run a trip and caught a decent amount, like 30, 40 foot deep, way out in the clear water. But where my bread and butter is more towards the muddier water. I like the shallower
Right.
fish that's not as spooky. But yeah, long story short, I could have sat there. I think I could have sat there for 3 hours and never caught one crappie. I was that
Well,
convinced. I mean, it was,
what do you see the pattern right now since you've got a little thing figured
yeah,
out to say? What do you feel like
they're
the
staging
pattern's
up.
going on?
They're staging up. They're all pulled up. They're
Pre-spawn.
full. Oh yeah, pre-spawn is on, and that's one of my favorite bites
Mm-hmm.
until it's not. But it's one of my favorite bite when this weather gets like this, because that water shot way up. It's a lot warmer, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think from now on, as long as Mother Nature doesn't try to humble me again like she did, it should be lights out fishing. Like I said,
Yeah.
pre-spawn, they're not even. I mean, they're moving up in the warmer water. The shallower you get, the warmer it is. They're moving in the back. They're doing their thing like way faster than I figured they would.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's almost like it just it. And I asked Brad, I said, when would you go back and check on these fish? Because I've never seen it this bad. I never have. He said tomorrow. I'm like, you
Yeah.
telling me they can
Yeah.
flip a switch that fast? He said, oh yeah. Well, he wasn't lying. I mean, I gave it 2 days because I just was busy. But man, yeah, they a whole different fishery
Yeah.
today compared to 2 days ago. You wouldn't convince me that it would have been that big of a change. But the shad have also dispersed out more than they were ricked in, and we had a huge shad kill. That's also a terrible combination. There's millions of shad on the bank where they have floated up and just died. So that's been my week. It's been a heck of a deal, but it's looking up. So y'all just keep praying for me on the crappie fishing side of
uh,
things, and we're gonna stay after them.
the thing about springtime is like you're hitting on in the scenario you're talking about hits everybody. I mean, it hits across the country,
Oh
different
yeah,
lakes, and different time frames. And This past week for me, we had muddy cold water come in, some cold fronts. It was cold in the morning times, cold, windy, and I seen these fish every day move locations.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, and the guys fishing with me this past week, it's like, how do you find fish on, these waterways and locate them in different bodies of water? And my mindset every day is I need to eliminate something, eliminate what's not working and try to build on what's working. And it's a very generic answer to that kind of question. I understand, but that's honestly how I start the day. I look at what I think should be working, and then if that's not working, I've got to eliminate it and put it in my past. Move past it and try to focus on things that do work. And I've been really uh, solid on the color pattern for about a week and a half. Well, no, really. Let me think about this. Everything's fuzzy. Really,
Keep
3 weeks.
rubbing
I've been on the same color jig for 3 weeks just because I
it.
can't
Oh, that's
eliminate it
nice.
because it's working.
When you get that right color, man, there's not a better feeling.
Yeah, it's just
I think I've
working.
got a good color as well. That orange
Yeah,
and
but
chartreuse silver is a bad boy.
right there.
No, is that your color?
That's
Oh,
one
I'm
of them.
like, no way, is it? That's
Yeah, that's
funny.
one of
I
them.
promise we didn't
That's
coordinate that, guys.
but mainly, Outlaw Special has been just dominant
Oh
because the
yeah,
water's kind of dingy and like
yeah.
Dustin, uh,
And that's a full
and I've
size slab slayer too, ain't it?
that is the full size 3-inch slab slayer right there.
That's funny,
I think.
man. That's the go to right now. It seems like the bigger the bait, the better. Not don't happen besides this time of year for me.
Well, why I'm using bigger baits right now is one, I want these fish to locate it really fast, and because they're moving. These fish are moving, and I'm locating fish on the bottom, and then I'm locating them up in the upper tier water. And I'm talking, let's say in 10 foot of water, I'm locating them on the bottom, that 9 to 10 foot range. And then also, I see a lot of fish from that 6 foot to really about 18 inches deep, anywhere in that range. If I locate them up top, they're the actively feeding crappie.
Yeah,
And kind of the other thing I noticed is the fish on the bottom are traveling fish. And in my mindset, anyway, those are those fish that are running towards the banks or running towards where they're spawning at, or they're leaving, or they're coming from there and staging back out. But when they kind of stop and they kind of come up is when they're feeding.
yeah,
And everybody always says, and we've said it for years, crappie fishing in general is fish for the upper tier fish. And that is definitely the pattern I see. Yeah, occasionally I'll drop on a fish on the bottom, but I'd rather cover a lot of water and just really focused on this top tier suspended fish that are kind of sitting there and they're looking for food. They're looking for something to come by them to eat. And you know, sunny days, it really didn't matter, or cloud cover. And over the last week, I've experienced everything when it comes to weather. But for me, was focus on the top tier fish and ignore the ones on the bottom, just because I could eliminate that bite. That bite wasn't
yeah.
wasn't there.
It saves you time dropping on fish that you could find another one
Mhm.
shallower. I agree. That's the same thing with the muddy water right now. It seems like the higher fish they either see better and they're more aggressive. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
today in Kansas we had an unbelievable day. Ken Robertson just jumped on. Ken, we used the 13-foot Patriot, and we caught the heck out of some giants. We were
caught the heck out
chasing.
of.
We were chasing Roman fish as well. Same exact scenario. Just the fish were aggressive and wanting to eat,
Yep,
and
up
it
water
just
column.
yeah up in the water column. And when you would drag that bait, I mean 2 3 foot away, they would come up and slam it. And it was a full size orange and chartreuse as well. And yeah, it was a blast. And I was telling Brad, these fish in Kansas today were firing at the bait so hard, if you were moving at all, they would miss. And they would fire at it 3 or 4 times, so you had to hold the bait as still as you could, so it wasn't moving when they went to shoot at it, and then you could get them
Why
to
do you
bite.
think that is, Dustin? I want to.
Man, I think
I'll ask
some.
you.
I know sometimes I think that they're aiming for the bait to run away. Does that make sense? I think just like when you're shooting a clay target, you lead it. I think they're leading the bait just a little bit, and when you don't, do what normally a bait does, it's hard for them to hit it. I just think they get so excited and they just come up and bum rush it. But I don't really know. I wish I did know it exactly. But if you hold it dead still, though, they hit it better. So nothing's more frustrating when you get a fired up big fish though, and it's shooting and missing the bait, and you're like, oh,
Missing it.
we would have caught it if it bit it. Yeah.
And I see a lot of guys when they drop down on them, their natural instinct when I'm telling them to bring it up is almost they pull them up too fast, and you've got to put in your
Yeah.
mind too, you can outrun these fish and pull it out of the water before they get
Oh,
a
for sure.
chance.
Hmm.
So you don't want to be the
I had a
too
screen peeker
fast.
today where he would jerk before the fish would bite it because it got him excited. You know, they get close and he would just
Yeah,
jerk. I said, don't even quit looking at that screen. It's messing us up.
we got some great reports coming in too, guys.
Oh
We're
yeah,
gonna
I
read some of
see.
those on
It's
the screen,
looking
and
good. Somebody
man,
caught a big
I
one on
see
the
them pop them
res.
up there.
The res is 53 degrees. That's crazy. It must be
Yeah,
a
yeah, I
lot
seen
clearer
it and
water
seen
because
54
it's
today as well.
yeah, we're at 55. That's how fast that muddy water will
Hmm.
just heat up. It's
Hmm.
crazy. I bet Grenada's way up there.
Yeah, and like you said, I think the further back into the shallows, and I really didn't go any shallower than 10 foot of water today for the most part. But if I'd have bet I went on that, uh, let's say 3 to 4 foot of water, it would have probably been 58, even possibly 60. Another thing that I noticed this week, in the last couple of days, is I'm seeing some fish that already. I'm not saying totally spawned; they're still holding some eggs, but they've released about half of them
Yeah,
already.
that's crazy.
And
Crazy.
the fish have been really last week. What I was telling you guys that I noticed was that they were really segregated, and meaning that the male fish were not with the female fish. Literally, I was catching 95% female fish last week, and that automatically let me know that hey, there's some fish really
Yeah.
shallow. The males are probably really shallow right now, and I believe they were even in the 48-degree water temperature and low 50s all last week. I think they were already shallow back in those warm pockets back
Yeah.
there
That wouldn't
because
surprise
I was
me.
just 95% female. So, I mean,
Mhm.
they were
Them males
somewhere.
yeah, them males are doing something. They're getting the old beds ready is what they're doing.
That's right.
Yep. Getting in there and building up the house.
Let's see some fish reports.
Look like
Braden's, he
Wesley
said,
Miller's in the house. It looks like he's doing pretty good. Had some good tips there earlier. I just missed him, but he had a lot of good tips. He said he was using bigger bait as well.
yep, I saw that a while ago. And, you know, Stephen Sullivan, I know he was commenting too about the fish in the upper top tier. You see him on bottom, kind of overpass it, and then I'm kind of running down his answer there. But those upper tier fish, you can get ready to hang on whenever they come up to the top. That's when they're going to really bite.
It,
And it's crazy. It just, it's unanimous across the board. That's
yeah.
everybody sees the same thing.
This is one of the craziest things I've seen on the live scope is the other day, a big fish, the bait's getting close, and you know how they dive like they get spooked from your boat
Oh
slap
yeah,
or whatever they dive.
go
This
under.
fish dove so hard into the bottom it knocked bubbles up. Is
Oh,
that not? Yeah, I've never seen that happen before, but it hit the bottom and bubbles come up the screen right where it ran in. So it definitely skid its belly or got tight enough to that mud where it stirred the water up, which is crazy. I've never seen that before.
have you? I seen a fish this past week too that literally seen the bait and got completely vertical underneath it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're
So
almost like
sit
what?
completely
Yes.
vertical up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling Mark, get ready to move it up some. And before, I mean,
Oh, it
the bait
fired.
literally probably moved an inch and it jumped so hard up there that, a lot of times you see a bite like that and they're not going to feel it. And the person holding the pole's not going to feel it because the fish has
Yeah.
hit it so hard coming straight up that there's no resistance on the line. But my
Those are
setup,
99% bites when they set straight up like that.
oh yeah, he was sitting straight up.
Yep.
But, Michael Taylor's got a report here I want to throw on the screen too. First time long line, just purchased two, what was it, 8, 10, and 12-foot trolling rods. Put to the work using the chart and loaded the boat Sunday. Awesome. Black and Shark True Stroller. 12 foot of water, found fish around 6 to 8 foot deep. It was our first time out this year. Thanks for all the sharing knowledge. Hey, man, I appreciate that. I
That's
love these
awesome.
fish reports like that.
I'm
You
glad I could
guys are
help
the
you out
reason we're
pulling.
here.
I'm just joking.
Man, I
Yep.
still see a lot of people pulling. I've seen 2 or 3 different boats out today pulling. I love it, and it's still
Steven
a
Saltman
very
said
good technique.
he loves when he sees them vertical. The only
Yeah,
place I've ever done that, and that was a tournament at Truman Lake, and I think a lot of people were passing over them because when I say you went over the crappie, they were
yeah,
sitting. It was a straight line up and down, and I'm like, what in the world are these? I drop on it and caught a tournament fish, and when I say like you could just see a straight line up and
yeah.
down, and I caught the next 5 or 6 fish doing that, and I know people were going over them because I would have never guessed it was a crappie. And they were literally sitting there before you even dropped the bait on them. They were just sitting straight up and down.
They were hunting.
That's crazy. Yep, just waiting for something to go by.
Did you notice your fish today traveling at all, or most of them just up suspended? Did you see any on
Yeah,
the?
like it's kind of a slow travel. It's almost like they're just kind of cruising. Some of them floating and holding still, but there was definitely some travelers.
Well, guys, right now we're at 118 likes, about 215 people watching. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Special shout out to Bobby Garland Bates for doing the today's
Yeah.
bite with Dustin and I every week. We sure enjoy it, guys, and cannot thank you enough for joining us, even on the tongue tying stuff I come across that I
Yes.
mess up.
And guys, when you go to buy all these good baits for spring, lurenet.com is the website to go to. It's a bad
Hey,
boy.
we
It's
got a
got
discount code
literally
too.
every yeah, discount code Crappie Connection 15. I get you 15% off. And it's
Bingo,
worth it.
bango.
I promise you. It literally has everything you need for crappie fishing, even some bass fishing stuff on the website. They got a little
Oh yeah.
everything. They
Nicholas, he
got your
says I'm late.
bandit crankbaits too.
Yep, that's right. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about some different things about, we talked about big baits and muddy conditions, and um, there's a couple other things that I like to do whenever those muddy conditions kind of come across. And one is going to be add some flash up to your baits, help them locate it in that muddy, dingy water. The new head turner just fits this muddy springtime water conditions great. You can see the dual blades right there.
I like how you got
Another
the hook
little,
where the tails split.
yeah, it's awesome and it looks awesome.
Yeah, I like
And,
that.
this is the minnow minder too. This I've been using 3-inch slab slayers and the minnow minders this week a lot. But another thing that I like to do in this dark, dingy water and is add some rattles to it.
Oh
These
yeah.
little bitty rattles, and that 3-inch slab slayer is the perfect size to
Shove it
add
up
that.
in.
Just let's say like this minnow minder right here in the head turner. Literally all I'm gonna do is just shove it up its rear,
I was gonna say right up the rump.
shove it up the rear of it,
Now you got two
and let
blades
it
and
go.
a shaker. If they don't bite that, go home, brother.
Well, they're gonna locate it, that's for sure.
Oh
It's gonna
yeah,
turn some
I
heads with
guarantee
them.
it. Yeah.
Crab orchard. Oh, we got good ones. Big ones floating in the middle still. If the winds would stay below hurricane levels, the big ones are hungry.
Man,
Water's
it is
50 to
the
52.
wind
Uh, Man, yeah.
windy
Water's
time
gonna
of
warm up
year.
quick.
Yeah, it's a real windy time of year. I think this
I'm
whole
gonna
month is just gonna be nothing but 20-mile-per-hour wind, but you just gotta try to get out of it.
Yeah, Kevin, he actually messaged me. He really got a limit early this morning, but he said he had a good lake on his home lake this morning. Caught them all in 7 to 8 foot of water. The slab slayer. I think the color name is blue ice. That is a good color. That
Oh
is
yeah, that's a great
right
color.
there.
You must have clearer water than we do though.
Absolutely. Yeah, ours has been pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
Working man, glad you joined us. 25K Crappie Connection. Appreciate that comment. Brandon Thomas, Lake Hudson, suspended in 25 foot of water, main lake, out in out from spring spawning areas. Pre-spawn pattern
Yep,
sounds like
that's
there, huh,
exactly
Brandon?
right. Yep. Our two lakes are connected. That's about the same story here. He's ready to go fishing. He just sent me a picture. He's stuck in work, I think, for 1 or 2 more days, and then he's getting after it.
It's ready to hear your seminar Friday. You got a seminar
Oh,
this?
yeah, I'm supposed to go to Bud's Bait in Joplin, Missouri. I was thinking, what are you talking about? Yeah, man, yeah, I appreciate it. I don't know. So far, the weather's looking bad enough that I may be able to make that seminar at 11 or 11:30. But Skylar will be there just in case I won't be able to make that, but I'll be there in the afternoon regardless. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there.
A great question. This is your night too, guys. If you're watching and want to learn a little bit more crappie fishing, if you got a question, please answer it. I can tell you right now, we've got some sticks on here helping us out.
Oh yeah,
Wesley
for sure.
Miller, Stephen Sullivan, Tim Howell, I mean, Bobby Mann, the list goes on and on. If we can, Brandon Thomas, if we can't help you, I promise these guys have always helped us out by commenting. But we'll be glad to help you out running any kind of questions that you might have. Post them up here and we'll be glad to help you out. But
Bob.
Jeff McGee, how deep will crappie spawn? Dustin, what's your experience on how deep do you think
Oh
crappie
man,
spawn?
it's all in the water clarity, in my opinion. But a place like, if you guys know Ten Killer Lake, it's super clear and super deep, and it's got standing timber. I think they'll spawn as deep as 20 foot deep because
Yeah.
they've got big trees and stuff to lay down there and stick their eggs to the trees and do their spawning there. I think some fish never go in shallow to spawn, so all kinds of different
Yeah.
depths, and you can go all the way up into 1 foot of water, 6 inches of water, and catch
Well,
fish.
I'm gonna even quiz you a
Oh,
little
don't be.
more even
Hey, I
on
ain't no
that.
fish biologist now. Go ahead.
What would if you had to pick, let's say, in 2 foot increments, say what would be the 2 foot increment of water spawning would you really had to
Key in
key
on.
on another depth?
Oh, like if they're actually spawning, doing their thing, it's a hot
If
spawn.
you only
Like,
had in a 2 foot
yeah,
increment,
yeah.
any depth, what would it
If I
be?
was if I'm at Grand Lake and the spawn is on and the water's as muddy as it is now, I'm fishing 2 foot deep. 2 foot. I'm casting all the way to the bank till I almost run out of water, and I'm popping a cork with a jig about that deep. And I'm just gonna drag it, pop it back, and I mean you'll freaking beat the heads off them boogers. But if the water's clear, I like 4 to 6 foot.
Honestly, my favorite depth when it comes to spawning crappie, and I'm thinking overall of, and I mainly fish Ross Barnett, but if I had to pick a 2 foot depth range, if I had to just nothing but focus on, for me personally, would be
Six to
8 to
eight.
10.
Oh, I was close.
You got the eight
Yeah,
to
I
ten
did. I
foot.
did. I
That
figured it
would,
was.
and that's muddy. I mean, we don't have clear water.
Yeah,
We don't have. We have a lot of shallow water actually,
yeah.
but and it's almost so much shallow water that they've got so much of an area to spread out in. But that 8 to 10 just seems like a magic number for me over the years that I like to key in on.
That would, yeah, that works really well right before I get them on the bank. But those 8 to 10 fish are the big females staging. I mean, that's when you can really
Hmm.
cipher through. I love the spawn too because the males go up, the females stay out, and you can smack
Yep.
them females while they're out. But the females roll in and out at night. They're the big fish are hard to catch off the bank, like I was talking about with a bobber and stuff. You can still do it, but it's right at dark and right at daylight usually. Bobby Mann says that I'm lucky I fished last week because this week's terrible. I'm guessing he's talking about Grenada, but let me tell you, Bobby, Grenada was far from easy when I was there. So I don't think the bite has been good on Grenada. What you would consider really good on Grenada, because that second day of fishing, I may have caught 10 fish. So I definitely didn't whack them by any means. I just caught the right ones in
Shane,
20 minutes of
what
fish.
size braid do I use to troll crankbaits? I like a 15-4. The smallest diameter.
Oh, Rod, I'm like
Uh,
15.4 braided line. I'm like,
well,
what?
it's 4 pound diameter and a 15
Got
pound
you.
string.
Okay, gotcha. I thought a 15 foot 4 rod. Never heard of that one. Man, you got me good. Hey, let's start talking English here, Brad, okay?
Well, I was. I
15
mean,
pound line with 4
well,
pound diameter. Man, you got me good
uh,
there. Hey, we don't know the slang around here, okay?
well, you do now.
Yeah, I hear you. Nicholas Whitten, he said
Stephen
he'll.
King.
Oh, go ahead. You
Now
got
you
it.
got it.
Oh, Nicholas Whitten said he'll be on the Big G next week, driving from Florida. So he's praying the bite gets better. Hey, are you going with a guide or fishing by yourself? But the bite will get better. Don't you worry. You'll have a good time, no
Nick's a
doubt.
guide. He's going by himself. He's going to whack
Oh,
him.
he is a guide? Got you.
Harry, he says, watching and learning. Appreciate you joining on here, Harry.
Oh yeah, he'll smack them.
Let's
Brandon
see.
Thomas said Spavinaw Lake is pretty clear in the spring. They'll be on the banks late at night, but after daylight, then they'll pull to 10, 12 foot on spawn. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's kind of like a Lake Uchi deal.
Anthony, he said, not to change the subject, what's your opinions on aluminum boat versus fiberglass boat? Fish tournament Saturday in my slab tracker, and half the guys told me I need a fiberglass boat. you know, it kind of depends on the waterway that you primarily fish. And big open reservoirs, day in and day out, no offense, dust ash, but fiberglass would be the way to go
Yeah.
day in and day out in big open
Dust
waters.
Test has an aluminum boat, is why he says that, Anthony. I've got a big aluminum boat and can make it work, but financially, if you can afford a nice fiberglass boat, I would go for it for sure. If you're not guiding and worried about like a lot of room or anything, I'd be going fiberglass boat. If I just fished for fun and did tournaments only, I would be doing a fiberglass boat, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a lot of thick, gnarly cover, river systems,
Shallow
um,
water, then you
shallow
go
water,
aluminum boat.
aluminum would probably be your better bet. But big open waterways, the fiberglass is a
And it's
handles it
it's
better.
it's just for the boat ride is what I'm saying. You need a fiberglass for you get a good feel of your boat and you can work that thing just as good as a fiberglass boat, then no problem. You can catch them the same. But my problem is with my fiberglass boat is getting to point A to point B in a rough, windy day is just miserable. So if you can get something that rides smoother in the wind, that more power to you for sure. That's where I would go fiberglass. But as far as fishing, neck and neck with somebody with the fiberglass, I've done it several times just as good. You're going to be able to. You just got to get a good feel for your boat. But it's the boat ride. I mean, them fiberglass ride a lot better in big water.
Yeah, and you know, typically fiberglass boats are just generally heavy. I've got a big heavy boat, and it tends to sit down better and not bounce on top of the waves as much. That's another advantage I would say is just the overall weight of them kind of helps them stick in that water down a little bit better. Mr. Ken said, "Y'all better hit that like button." Now, I'm telling you guys right now, Mr. Ken said it, so you got to do it. We're at 175 likes right now, thumbs up. So please take that moment. Doesn't cost you anything to hit
Ooh.
that likes button. It actually helps us too.
Another good spawning question. Slab Nasty's in the house. He said, "What is your go-to
Right.
water temp to start looking for spawning fish?" And mine for Grand Lake, I always seem to go early to the bank. Like when I'm saying spawning, I'm talking about when I'm catching them really, really shallow. The males are black, they're nested up and they're guarding their nest. I'm looking for 68 to 72, a consistent 68 to 72, and I'm going to get after them, try to blast them on the bank. But they will go earlier for sure. I want them
hmm
like the full swing. You can hit one pocket, catch 100 fish. That's going to be the 68 to 72 here.
Yeah. Tony, he says, please tell me when you change from pulling jigs to crankbaits when longline, and he's talking about pulling out of the bag. To be honest with you, I'd rather pull jigs over crankbaits as long as I can. Typically, I won't start pulling crankbaits until the water's around 85 ish. I want it pretty hot, and that's just what I like to do. You know, if I'm trying to cover a whole lot of water, you can pull faster day in and day out with crankbaits because it's a bigger profile bait, has the rattles and everything. So if I need to pull faster, rougher water conditions, crankbaits can kind of be a little bit better just because you can go faster and you'll cover more water. So I hope that kind of answers you a little bit there.
Yeah. Anthony Richardson, you bet, man. I appreciate you watching the show. He said, my current boat is paid for. So
Yes, sir.
he said, and it was really windy Saturday, 3 to 4 foot waves. And he said, thanks, guys. Great show. Anthony, here's the thing. If that boat's paid for, brother, go out there and fight them waves. I did this. I fought them 3 to 4 foot waves out there in Grenada, and you can make it work. Just get a good feel for your boat, drive
Yep.
careful, and then hide from the wind when you're going out. But man, if that boat's paid for, I'd say ride it out. For sure.
Yeah,
I'm a
uh,
David Ramsey style guy. You get that thing
there
paid
you
off,
go.
hang in there. Who cares what people say you need?
Larry, I appreciate you joining in. He's from Louisiana. Josh, let's see. What's your opinion on actually starts of the spawn, temperature, hours of daylight in a day, etc.? I think you nailed it all in that one thing. But also it goes back to the personality of lakes. And I think in general, some of
For
these
sure.
shallow lakes, oxbow lakes along, I could say in Mississippi anyway, seems like some of those lakes are 3 to 4 weeks earlier than these big reservoirs. Just those big bodies of waterways tend to take a little bit longer to get started. Um, but I think it's the personality of the lake and a general, 55 degrees in the main body of water. There's going to be some 60 degrees, and those fish will be already shallow by then. We've had a lot of 50-degree water over the last week, and like I said, I started seeing fish really segregated farther, really the last 2 weeks. And I felt like it was probably some fish really shallow. Typically, like we said, is going to be the spawning
Hmm.
males go up first. I like to target those big fat females, so I like to stick it a little deeper. But 50 degrees main body water, you can just about bet there's some 58 to 60-degree water in the shallow, especially northern part of the lake as well.
I'm sorry I didn't get the name, but someone asked, do you ever fish two jigs, a double jig system? And then if so, when would you use a double jig system?
I see it.
And I know you do that a lot in the
Yeah.
summertime.
Yeah, Eric, for me, I cast a lot with double jigs. And the main reason that I like to cast with them, well, there's really two reasons I like to cast with a double jig setup. Is one, I can play around with profiles and colors on the same line and see the reaction at the same time at a fish. So I can say, all right, I'm using the itty bit slab hunter on the back end of the bait on one, and then on up above it, let me get on the camera. I might use the 2¼ inch full size slab hunter. Well, all of a sudden I see him just attacking the full size slab hunter. That lets me know, hey, I need to put both baits the same size. But also I can play around with colors and I can say, all right, they've bit the bigger slab slayer, slab hunters. So I'm gonna play around with colors a little bit. I'm gonna see if they're really wanting the green of this tail or the orange part. And then I would switch to a mud dauber. But using two jigs on the same line, you get to see that fish's reaction to two different baits. And also for live scoping anyway, casting for me is a whole lot easier for people and myself included, these old eyes with these glasses on, to watch two jigs fall down compared to one jig. You can put split shot on it as well, and you can see the split shot and help you identify it. But if you're putting two big baits on there, or even you know, the 80-bit slab hunter is way bigger than a split shot falling down. So especially when you put it on the jig head, but it's easier to pick up two jigs falling, but also lets me experiment with the size and profile, but also helps me experiment with the color range as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good in-depth double jigger there. I would only use a double
Mhm.
jig system if I didn't have live scope and I was trying to cover two different depths of water. Like if you're two poles trolling or just trolling with jigs, of course I'd do a double, or I would fish standing timber with the two jig system without if I didn't have a live scope. And I
Yeah.
also I've went to double jig a couple times when it's really clear water and I just cannot get them to stop following my weight above the jig. So I'll end up tying a bigger jig on top, and then that way if they go up there to bite it, you're gonna whack them.
All right, guys, keep these questions going. You guys are rocking, and I appreciate it. Where's the best place to go wading? Oh man, well, Dudley, those core lakes up north of Mississippi is going to be really hot. They've always been known to wade, but you can do it on a lot of different waterways. I would suggest making sure it has a firm bottom. Just from experience, some of these other lakes have soft bottoms. It can be really challenged to wade in. So if it has a hard bottom and fish are shallow, it's great lake to go wading in. but I would make sure it had a hard bottom. And you know the layout of that lake. You don't want to just go
Yeah, yeah.
wading out
Fall
there and
off
all
in
of a
a
sudden you
ditch.
fall in a ditch. So
Yep.
make sure you know where you're going to be wading at. Make sure it's flat and you know that bottom pretty well. And put a belt around your waist if you don't. That way you don't
Yeah.
fill up your waders.
Yeah. Anthony Richardson, he said, weights above your jig. Do you prefer a bullet weight with a bobber
Mhm.
stop or just a split shot? He said, again, guys, I just started crappie fishing a little over a year. Hey,
Love it,
you
Anthony.
can't. Yeah, them are good questions for sure. I mean, them are
Love it.
questions we get a lot, and you're probably answering questions for or asking questions for other people too. So I like the
Hmm.
questions as well. I'm a bobber stop guy. I'll put a
Yep.
weight on and put bobber stops on both sides. Sometimes multiple bobber stops on both sides of the weight. So. I've tried the split shot. It does good, but I just like heavier weight. So it's hard to get
Yep.
split shots to get as heavy as your barrel sinkers or your bullet weights.
Like I said, I love the question too. For me, I think a lot of guys when they're, and I had a guy ask me at the Crappie Madness at Brass Pro Shops 2 weeks ago. He was having trouble finding his baits on the screen, and my first question to him was, "What size are you running weights? How fast are you moving? How deep are you fish?" For me, I like to use about a half ounce. If I'm really shallow and the fish are sitting still, I will go down, but typically day in and day out, I'm gonna do a half ounce egg sinker anywhere from about, I'm gonna say 14 to 18 inches up above the head itself. And I like to have two bobber stops up top above it and two bobber stops below it. Now, all this week, honestly, because my fish have been moving, you know, the boat's been moving, it's been windy, and you know we don't have a lot of time to put the bait in front of these fish before they just
Exactly.
swim off. So timing, we're trying to get the bait to them as fast as possible. So I'm using a 3/4 ounce weight and a 3/8 tungsten up above it. uh, so a little bit over an ounce I'm putting up above my jigs before I can locate it really quick, get it to the fast really quick. But I think the probably number one mistake I see guys starting out with live scope is they're not adding enough weight up above their jig.
Yeah.
And as that boat's moving around, you're
Takes
being pushed
forever.
around, you
Hmm.
can't get it on your screen. So if you're having trouble keeping your bait on the screen starting out, use a heavier setup up to an. Don't be afraid to put an ounce weight up above these
Oh
jigs if
yeah,
you're live
for sure.
scoping.
If they made tungsten that was small 2 ounces, I would do it. Probably.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how much I like that much weight. And it's funny you say that, Brad, because I've got two now, two barrel swivels stacked on each other, and
yeah.
I've got a lot of weight on there just for that reason. It's just so much easier when you go left or right. You get to them fish so much faster.
Because otherwise, I
Can you?
tell everybody, in my mind, I think you got to think of it. It's on a sitting on a pendulum. It's swinging
Yeah,
around as that boat's moving.
exactly.
That bait's just swinging around.
And
So if you can get heavier, it's
yeah.
going to stick down further.
You know as well as I do too, when you say left and you're telling them left, 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 okay, stop right there. Well, they already actually went too far and it's that
Exactly,
line's just catching up. So it just keeps and it goes past.
and
You're like,
then
ah,
swings
go
past it.
back right. Yeah, go back right. And it's swinging back by. So yeah, more weight is better. Carl Durman, Grand Lake is starting to look good, buddy. It was tough there for a little while, but it's starting to look better. And it'll just get better, hopefully, with the weather straightening out.
And I see the question Roger asked about, do I keep my Garmin updated? I don't shy away from it. My screens look really good and they're up to date right now. I know there's been some issues. I'm gonna say 18 months to 36 months ago in that time frame, they had some updates that didn't settle well with people's units. I haven't heard of that happening here lately personally, but if you have an issue with your garment before they're gonna service it, they're gonna make you update it. So whether or not if you're not having an issue, that's fine. But if you have an issue, they're gonna make sure you update that unit.
Hmm. Yeah, Carl, the water has came up quite a bit, but I think it's about to mellow out for us. Anthony said, "Thanks again. I like to double up the bobber stops, so when I set the hook, it stays in place." He
Yep.
said, "I'm used to them bass hook sets, so I've been ripping lips." Yeah, hey,
There
you
you
got to
go.
you got to calm down on them hook sets when you got a long rod. You just kind of almost, I say it's a pull instead of a jerk. That way, it don't you don't rip them lips. But it is hard when you watch them big old fish bite it.
Man, yeah, I think Robert pretty much said exactly what we were talking about a second ago as far as the the heavier
Double
weight
check.
and everything. That's a very long comment.
Hmm.
Appreciate you guys. 219 likes. We're gonna try to hit that 250 range again tonight. We got about another 20 minutes left or so. So if you haven't hit that thumbs up, guys, do it. Also, let's hear some fish reports again. I know you guys got them out there.
I seen Josh Bowler
Post
had a
those
good one, but I
questions.
missed him there. It was a good one. Looked like
I
he
even put
said
it
he
on the
was using
screen for you guys.
a K Rod.
Along the subject line, the new podcast that we've got coming out tomorrow talks about boat control. We dive into
How
boat
important is
control.
boat control, Brad?
Man, it's a big uh,
Is it 90%?
man. I would say about 90, especially
It's
open
gotta be.
water, chasing
That's what
down
I'm saying.
fish. It's
Right now,
90%.
this time of year, it's got to be 90%.
Yeah.
I agree.
But we talk about boat control and some different things. Have Chad Clifton of Power Brakes on there. Guys, I can tell you from experience, that's what I'm running on my boat. I absolutely, and you talking about boat control, how to get another tier on your boat control is by a braking system, like Power Brakes. But we have Chad and also old Mr. Zeke on there, and we talk about different ways for boat control on that episode. So it's going to come out tomorrow. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let me give you guys an update. My goal, and we're going to get there with you guys' help, is 25,000 subscribers on YouTube. And we're right about 15,000 right now. I looked right before the show, and it seems like we're at like 14,600 and something. So we need some more help on that end. So if you're watching and hadn't hit that
Man,
subscribe button,
if
make
we
sure
ever
you
hit
do
that
that for us.
25K, I mean, you know what we're going to have to do? We're going
We're
to have like a big old camp for all of the subscribers.
We could do that.
That'd be epic. A big old
We could
fish
do
camp
that.
for our today's bite followers.
We could do that.
Carl asks, "What is the best color to use when spawn season? Probably at Grand Lake." Carl, it depends. It depends on the water
Water.
clarity. Yeah, it just depends on what's going on at that time. If it's muddy, I would be using a black chartreuse, orange chartreuse, something in that area, depending on the sunlight.
Outlaw.
Double silver rainbow. There's a bunch of them I'd love to use in the muddy water.
It even goes back to, and I don't have much experience definitely on Grand Lake, but I do recall a color that they liked on Grand Lake that when I was there.
I like fried shad. We did good then. What was
Hummingbird
another?
was real good.
Hummingbird was good. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, I liked fried shad. You were whacking them on the hummingbird. Yeah,
I'm
Tim
trying,
Howell has a good point. He said, "How did we ever catch fish before
man,
breaks?" That's
that
no
ain't no
joke.
joke.
Yep, that's for
That-
sure. Gary
I,
Rowe, how you doing, Gary? He's got a Fort Gibson
man,
fishing report. He said the river channel is dirty with current. The fish are roaming in 20 plus foot of water. The bay, water bays, water clarity is better in the bays. All right, good little tidbit there. Fort Gibson's a great fishery when it's on fire. Good fish there.
I saw Lake Talcott was on fire. It rolled past before I got up to it, but that's another Florida lake that's always been on my bucket list. I've always heard that was a really good long lining lake.
Uh-oh.
I'd like
I
to hit
still
that
I
one
still
one.
think you ought to be let loose on St. John's River one time.
Oh man, we gotta go, Dustin.
I know. That'd be epic.
We gotta go.
I couldn't hog the boat if we were pulling. I'd get one side and you'd get one side.
That's right. We'll catch them pulling. You
Yeah.
know,
I'm just saying I couldn't hog the front end. You could actually fish with me. Yeah,
we would catch them
that would
one
be
way
so
or the
cool.
other.
Oh yeah. A bucket list would be if they were in the lily pads and we got to dip those. Would that not be epic? Just ripping big old blacks out of them lily pads.
Well, Robert, I do fish a river system on Lake. Oh, excuse me, not Lake Washington. On Ross Barnett is attached to a river system, and I like river systems. You know, I prefer the big open water over the river system, but windy days, probably in the springtime, I fish more up a river
Calls for it
channel than
sometimes.
any other time. And yeah, I love it. I love fishing the river system. The only thing I don't like about them in summertime when it's no current is that the fish get so thick and covered that it's some of it that you just cannot get to it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing about it.
Stacy Williams, is there any report on Kentucky Lake? Any Kentucky Lake fishermen in there? Sometimes we do get Kentucky Lake fishing reports, so maybe there is some. We'll see. Shout out to our
Tim
Kentucky Lakins.
Keaton, he said, "Is there going to be a deep dive into waypoint management?" Yeah, I love waypoints. That's one of my things that I think that
We've had
is
a good discussion on
underutilized.
that one time. Yeah, we've had a
Yeah, we
good show on
definitely
that.
think it's one that's underutilized is waypoint management, and that's a. Do you have a waypoint system? Let's hear your waypoint system. Mine is I have color codes depending on the type of structure and the depth of water of that structure. My Lawrence, when I
You
had
have
it
gold
was
signs?
yeah, I have some gold
Uh-huh.
signs.
Uh-huh.
I see my phone bopping, but um, Bricky, let's see. I'm trying to get you back up there. He said crappie breaks today. 7-foot pieces of logging chains on the reds work well, absolutely, and he's just pulling those behind himself and helping him to slow down and stop. So if you don't have power brakes at the moment, a logging chain is definitely a great option to utilize as well. And that was on a podcast.
Man, all Stephen King's in the doghouse, Brad. But hey, you talk about a true you being just stuck to the show. We appreciate you being a good soldier. He said the wife was looking at me funny watching on our 43rd anniversary.
Mm,
First of all, Stephen, congratulations on making it 43 years. That's unheard of nowadays. That's a long time to be married, man. So,
absolutely.
congratulations and happy anniversary. Tell your wife we appreciate you being able to watch because if she really wanted to, you wouldn't be watching right now. So, you better thank her as
Absolutely.
well.
Steve, fish, you follow Monday, dropped lots of fish. They would ignore everything and put in front of them. Water temperature was 48. I think you were fishing the
Oh,
same area Dustin was.
yeah, you was, buddy. I absolutely had the same exact fishing report for you.
Mhm.
Actually, the same day. It was Monday. So go back there and see what's going on now. It's probably a lot better bite. Everything warming up.
Absolutely. Yeah, like Tony said, I did do a podcast actually on waypoint management. I've been trying to think of the name, but the thing with all the podcasts, I think we've got about 200 in the library right now, guys. So if you've got a idea about a podcast, I would love to hear them. But also, we might have done it, but I'm willing to do it again if it's something you guys need to listen to and have a
Dang
good
right.
guest for me as well. I love doing podcasts, as you might know.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you can't tell,
Youngin, it's a great question. He said, "What's the shallowest you'll attempt long lining, and how light will you go on your jigs?"
that is a
Love
good
it.
one.
Great question. I'm gonna say 4 foot as a shallow, 3 foot, 4 foot,
Yeah.
and the lightest jig setup that I'll pull is a single 32nd ounce, and I'm sure I've got a
Holy
32nd ounce around.
smokes, that is
I, s-
wild.
I think a 32nd ounce over this past week. If I was going to pull, I would have been pulling either double 30 seconds or a single 30 seconds because that top tier water, those fish they wouldn't pass the jig up, especially
Yeah.
those ones about 18 inches. A single 32nd ounce is going to go about 18 inches deep. And I'm talking 60, 70 feet back behind the boat. So you're getting away from the boat, you're getting those top tier high water column fish. Literally, they're sitting right under the surface almost. But those jigs are coming by them. But a single 32nd is the lightest that I pull and have pulled successfully. I guess you could go to a 148th or 164th. Might be dragging, skipping on the water then, but a single 32nd is about the lightest I've ever pulled. Mr. Billy, there 25K crop connection. Billy knows the routine. If you're just joining
He
in,
knows
you're
what's
late.
up.
We love you still, but you got to hit that 25K crop connection if you come in late. Appreciate you doing it. Okay.
Hold
Tim, he
on.
said power brakes are awesome. That is absolutely correct. Mr. Tim. Tim's also he's a guide up on the Northern Lakes, the Enid, Sardis, and Grenada as well. I'm sure I bet he was probably I'm gonna say Enid. I know Tim loves Enid, so we've got an Enid report for you guys. Caught him yesterday at 18 foot of water. Today, 3 foot of water. That's a perfect example of how fast these fish travel in the springtime. And even the fish that I have been fishing, I don't know if I fished the same exact area 2 days in a row because one day they might be 500 yards this way. I come back the next morning, they're 500 yards the other way. And,
Yeah,
colder
man.
mornings, they'd move out. Afternoons, they seemed like they would start
Yep.
creeping
Scooting
back
in.
up.
Yep. They have a hard time
Eh,
making their
They're
mind up for
moving so
sure.
fast.
Here we go with the Kentucky Fish and Lake report. I'm so proud of Larry Jones.
Oh,
He
yeah.
came in clutch for Kentucky, and it just bounced me out of it. So Brad, you're gonna have to read this Kentucky Lake fishing report, brother.
He's Kentucky Lake report from Saturday had 15 nice fish with a 252 tank, 12 foot of water. Bobby Garland, Edie Bit was the
Yeah,
key
but
for Mr. Larry.
they're
Appreciate that,
still
Larry.
pretty
Great
shallow.
report. Tim Smith. Yeah, Tim, tip of the day from Tim. He said, make sure your brakes up are up before you take off. That is a great tip to have
That's
on
a
there.
heck of a tip, buddy.
Anybody has brakes or know what he's talking about already. I know I've done
Yep.
it more than once.
I'd love to tell you I haven't. You know, another one that I just did that I usually, I mean, it's been a while since I've done, is try to take off with the trolling motor down.
I've done that.
That's been a while, but
I've done that.
I did look forward and wonder what the heck's splashing me.
Yep, I've done that.
Oh yeah.
I've done that.
If you
Let's
fished enough,
see.
you've done it.
Yep, I've done that myself. Let's see. He says, Shane, he said, you ever pull jigs with a crankbait at the same time? Yes, I have. And, even when the itty bits come out, we pulled some of the itty bits tied onto the backside of the back crankbait. And, we caught fish doing it as well. But I just, if I'm gonna pull crankbaits, I'm gonna usually just do all crankbaits. If I'm gonna pull jigs, I usually pull all jigs. But you can do it, that's for sure. You can even go up the line and put a three-way swivel up, 3 foot up above the crankbait, and have the jig going, 18 to 3 foot tied off that three-way, and catch them that way as well. But you know, I typically don't do it personally.
Eagles
Let's
getting really
see.
close. Caught more after 6:30 p.m. than all day loading the boat now. Rory Dale, he had a long day today. If he's loading her now, he's had a long
Well,
day.
I know
Hey,
Roy.
the
He
fact
probably
that
didn't
he
get out
got
there to
on
two
here
o'clock.
and commented while he was loading the boat, that's my man right there. He's listening to us.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you tuning in, buddy.
Roy, I would bet I'd be willing to bet you that there's some fish spawning on Eagle Lake right now.
That's wild.
They're probably past a little close. There's fish spawning on Eagle Lake today.
Wow. That's probably why he
Maybe
caught them
that's a
all there
hint.
at dark.
Maybe that's a hint. I don't know. All right, Greg Holder, 25K Crop Connection. Appreciate you joining in there, Mr. Greg. Got
Appreciate you, partner.
268 likes, guys. We're getting there. Hit that 250.
270.
Now we want 300.
Oh, wow. I
Now we
said
want
270.
300.
You got to go for realistic goals, Brad.
No, no,
He said no.
no.
Uh,
Yeah, it says, Tim, I'm betting that Tim has done the same things we've done as well,
yeah,
as
he
far
said
as leaving the trolling motor
Tim's
down
going to
or the
spray a
trolling
little
motor.
water. He said, have you ever
Yeah.
done this, Brad? Have you ever backed a little too far and sent your boat out in the lake yet?
Yes.
Okay, I've done that too and had to swim out
Yeah.
there and get it. So,
I haven't swum.
uh,
I did it one time at Grenada, and by myself fishing, and had the rope tied off to the bow of the boat, tied onto the back side of the trailer. And I guess I was a little bit fast when I tied it up to the trailer
hmm
because it slipped right off. But the thing about Grenada in the springtime, I
the wind's
honestly, I
blowing
just
at you.
went, well, I just wouldn't park my truck and let the boat float And I was like, there's people putting their boat in right
Oh
behind
yeah,
me.
good idea.
So I just let it float away, and I was like, "Hey,
Yeah,
man, you give me a ride out to my boat."
yeah. I
So
had to actually
I got
strip
really lucky.
down. I had to strip down and swim out to the boat while clients were on the dock waiting on me to pick them up, and they videoed me and really got some good commentary out of it. He said he was starting to worry about the guide he hired while I was swimming out there to the boat.
Hmm.
Yep, I was a little excited for the morning. The fish were biting good.
Mr. Ken, he said if we got to 350, it would make him happy. Mr. Ken, it would make me really happy
Great.
too.
Yep. Everybody's getting real greedy around here lately.
We want what's best for you, Dustin. We
Oh,
want the
okay, I got you. I
350.
appreciate it.
We want
What's
what's
best for
best
the
for you.
community? Yes.
That's right. Jeremy, he's asking, do you guys ever live scope before daylight? Fish seem to be really good first thing. Just wondering if they do say at 4. What do they say do at 4 a.m.? Personally, I'm not out there at 4 a.m.
No, but
Um,
I'll tell you, if they're doing the same thing as they do at night, they're just running around like a chicken with their head cut off, and it's really tough bite unless you're fishing over a light.
I
Because I've
know.
been there.
I know. Last week you were talking about even fishing the crappie masters. You guys can't wet a hook before the start fishing time, but you could see some of those. Do they tend to change up before that sun come up for you that time of day, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, like yeah, right at the beginning of daylight, I feel like it's a lot harder to find fish until the sun comes up. Like they're just
Hmm.
moving and cruising.
Greg Holder, is it from Harris, Tennessee? I don't believe Greg Holder is not from Tennessee. He's from a Mississippi boy.
Boy, Steven has a good point. He said it's a great time to practice your drops. Yeah, when you can't see the trolling motor, it is so hard to fish in the middle of the night if you don't have the feel for where you're at and how to get in front of the screen.
I've thought about doing it, but I've never went out at night and live scoped. I know, you thinking around piers and different things, you could say, all right, I see
Oh
all these
yeah.
different piers that have lights. You could eliminate which ones were really loaded with crappie or identify
I've
them
done
really
it in the
quick. Like,
summer. In the summertime, I have fish lights and if you call them piers, docks, whatever, they 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 hold some fish. Those fish will pull off the brush piles and get under those lights. Because in the summer, the lights attract all the bugs, and then all the little bait fish are eating the bugs. Then
yeah,
there's crop. It goes all the way down to you'll see 20 to 30 pound blue cats under the crappie that are sweeping. It's like the whole food chain is under a light. It's pretty dang cool.
I think I got to sneeze, so you got to bear with me a second. I feel it coming on.
Hang in there, buddy. Stay with us.
I'm about to sneeze. That's the next
Oh,
thing that's coming for you guys if you haven't experienced yet is the pollen. And that's probably the
ooh,
the hardest
ooh.
thing for me to deal with in the springtime. And we're actually talking about today was I know pollen's in there and it's starting to come, but it hasn't hit quite yet, but it's not far from us. But pollen, you're going to get out here in the next couple of weeks and you're going to be, there's something wrong with my unit.
Oh
And,
yeah.
I did a comparison between the 32 and the 34, a video actually on the pollen. The 34 seemed to do a better job for me and playing with the color gain. But a big tip for you guys when this pollen hits you to adjust to it, to adjust your screens to it is like I said, you're gonna think that the world has ended. You're going to think that the doomsday is here because you're going to get out there and your screen's going to be completely fuzzed up, and it's pollen on the in the water column itself. For me, how I adjust that is I'm going to get something in front of me, and I'm running the touchscreen unit. I'm running a 126, but I'm pausing the screen. And once I hit the pause button on my Garmin unit, and then I'm gonna go through the menu actually, and I'm gonna adjust my color gain until Bo, put some clothes
Uh-oh.
on, man.
He said that's a slab crappie right here, folks.
That's the one red color there.
Yeah.
But pause that screen, and just your color gain and your regular gain, especially during the pollen, is probably, I get people on the boat all the time wanting to, get better with live scope, but utilize the pause button on your screens to adjust, especially this pollen's coming up. It's going to be challenging. So get ready. Bo agrees.
Yep, he thought so. He's got the
Bo
hiccups.
agrees. Well, Bo, you got anything before we get off here?
He don't have much, it don't look like.
No, he looked around.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
He's just chilling out.
Oh, there you go. That's what he had to say.
He said subscribe.
Yep.
Bo said subscribe.
Goodness gracious.
Appreciate you guys for joining us.
Thank you guys very much. That's a great show. We'll see y'all next Tuesday at what time? 7 o'clock.
7. That's right. Bo, say it. Sign off. He said it.
There you
Appreciate
go.
you guys.
You
See you
guys
next
heard it
week.
from the
Good
man.
fishing tomorrow afternoon.
Good
The
luck
new
to everybody.
podcast come out. Holla.
Getcha.